Welcome back. I am so excited that you have joined me again in the Aligned Womb, Aligned You podcast. I'm Kate Nagai, and I am your host and womb guide on this journey. I'm here to help you to lean into the language of your menstrual cycle so that you can align yourself and awaken and activate to your womb wisdom to live the most inspired life. I am so excited to jump into this episode and to dive into today's topic. So let's get started. Today we're diving into a topic that so many of us were never taught, the truth about ovulation and why it is critical for our overall health and our longevity. If you've been told that ovulation only matters when you're trying to get pregnant, I'm here to change that narrative. Because whether or not you're trying to conceive, ovulation plays a vital role in your hormone balance, in bone health, in metabolism, mood, and even long-term protection against diseases like osteoporosis and dementia. And we're also going to dive into how hormonal birth control suppresses ovulation and what that means for your body. So let's get into it. So let's start off with the basics. Ovulation. Ovulation is when your ovary releases an egg. It's at the peak event of your menstrual cycle. But here's what most people don't realize. Ovulation isn't just about making babies. It is about making hormones, specifically progesterone and estrogen in their most balanced and beneficial forms. When you ovulate, the egg is released and the follicle breaks out of that egg shell, and that egg shell is called the corpus luteum, and that is what gives us enough progesterone for the second half of our cycle. So the corpus luteum is really what's providing all of our progesterone in our body. So we cannot have progesterone if an egg is not released. An egg will not be released unless if we have an ovulation. So ovulation is essential. So when our body produces progesterone from that corpus luteum, it creates powerful anti-inflammatory effects in our body. It helps us regulate our mood, supports our sleep, and protects us against estrogen dominance, which is really important. So one of the key roles of progesterone is to balance estrogen. When we have progesterone in our system, it naturally keeps our estrogen in check. Without progesterone, though, this is where estrogen dominance can really start to take place in the body. And estrogen dominance creates the effect in the body like those sore breasts that we get just before our period, the raging PMS, and really so many of those symptoms that make us dread being a woman. So estrogen, when it is balanced by sufficient amounts of progesterone, it is also important because it is responsible for our healthy skin, our brain function, and our energy levels. So without ovulation, you can see how we don't get the optimal benefits from these hormones. We don't get the things that will impact our mental well-being, as well as aspects that really help keep our body in the healthiest state possible. So ovulation also plays a huge role in our metabolism and our bone density. So women who ovulate consistently appear to have stronger bones. They are also known to have better insulin sensitivities, and they're more resilient to stress, which really, we talk about this all the time when we're looking at PMS and looking at the luteal phase and feeling overwhelmed. It can be that our hormones are just not in that check and balance state. Also, progesterone, which is only produced with ovulation, has a protective effect against breast and uterus cancers. All the more reason we want to bank as many ovulations as we can in our lifetime. Jumping ahead a bit here, it's important to just plant the seed that birth control robs us of this. But we'll get to that in a minute here. And then finally, ovulation is also so important for our vaginal health and protecting against infections. The absence of regular ovulation, that is not a lack of ovulation because of the birth control pill. So just, you're not on the birth control pill, but you're not ovulating regularly. This can be an indicator of an underlying health issue, which is another great aspect of having an ovulation, is that it does give us these warning signs of when we need to check things out. So this is why cycle tracking isn't just for fertility. It is really a powerful tool for us to monitor our overall health and keep an eye out for those imbalances and making sure that we are ovulating, so that way we can take care of our health by maybe just a few dietary changes or a few lifestyle changes. It really does amaze me how responsive our bodies are to balancing our hormones when we put our awareness and our attention towards it. So, modern lifestyles, it really does disrupt ovulation. Let's be serious here. So what happens when we don't ovulate? Many women today experience anovulatory cycles. This is pretty common. And this means that their body is going through a menstrual cycle, but it's not actually releasing that egg. And this can be caused by stress, which I think is probably one of the number one reasons. And something that I'm super focused on with my work with clients is looking at stress responses, looking at how we are navigating stress, the burnout sensation, and how we can start structuring our life so that we can start to reduce that stress response in the body. But anovulatory cycles can also happen because of overexercising, undereating, poor sleep, and endocrine disruptors that are in our environment, which are everywhere. So when ovulation is missing, we often see symptoms like irregular or missed periods, PMS, anxiety, mood swings, and difficulty maintaining a healthy weight. Over time, chronic anovulation can contribute to more serious conditions like thyroid disorders or even early onset osteoporosis. It can also be a sign of an underlying condition of PCOS, which that's one of the indicators of PCOS. But here's something that rarely gets talked about, which is hormonal birth control and how it actively prevents ovulation from occurring at all. Now, just before we get into the birth control topic here, I just want to be clear. I'm not anti-birth control. I think birth control is a resource that we can use if we're trying to prevent a pregnancy. However, I do not like how it's prescribed for everything. And I do not like that it seems to be the standard of care for birth control, because we forget that puts a lot of onus on us all the time. And this is something that's impacting our health and our well-being versus it being a responsibility of the man or the boy, like condoms, right? So there's other choices. But anyways, that's a side note. So I'm not against birth control. I just don't like it when we're using it because we've sold that this is somehow going to keep us healthy, fix the problems or the symptoms that we are currently experiencing. And that's where this discussion is coming in here. So if you're on hormonal birth control, whether it be the pill, the patch, or any other form of birth control pill, so that's also the depot shot, your body is not ovulating. And I want that to really hit home. You are not ovulating. The synthetic hormones in birth control suppress your natural cycle, meaning you don't get the benefits of your body's own progesterone and estrogen. Instead, these synthetic hormones replace your natural rhythm, often leading to side effects like anxiety, depression, low libido, and a nutrition depletion. It has a huge impact on our gut health. And in fact, you are not receiving progesterone at all. So even if you think, oh, well, I'm getting a synthetic form, no, you are not receiving progesterone at all. None. So all those things that we talked about just a few minutes ago about the benefits of progesterone, you're robbing your body of that. So many women are prescribed the birth control pill for reasons other than contraception, such as painful periods. I hear a lot for acne or irregular cycles. And we really are sold on these half-truths about birth control. The biggest one being that it will help regulate our cycle. It does not regulate our cycle. It actually suppresses our cycle. It stops it. So this is so far from the truth. And I really wish that this dialogue would be thrown out and that we would start educating women properly about what is actually happening with the birth control pill, because this is an old dialogue that holds no truth anymore. What is actually happening is the birth control pill is shutting down our hormonal system and robbing us of all its health benefits. So please keep this in mind, that these quick fixes that we think the birth control pill is going to do, it doesn't actually address any of the root causes of what's causing those symptoms or those hormonal imbalances. It just simply masks the symptoms. And when we stop ovulating altogether and we go on this birth control pill, when we try to go off of it, bam, our symptoms will come back with full vengeance. It will not heal them. That's the biggest thing I guess I want to say, is that birth control pill does not heal our symptoms or our imbalances. It just kind of pauses things in time and allows it to build up. So this is why it's so important to be informed about the birth control pill and what it actually does to your body, and to explore other birth control forms if that's something that you're open to. You know, the condom is just as effective. And it also protects us against STDs or STIs. And so, this is where there is some better options. There's some great books too. I'm reading the book Sweetening the Pill right now. Oh my God, so mind-blowing, amazing. I love this book. So what we want to look at is cycle syncing. We want to look at proper nutrition. Stress management can go a long way in restoring our ovulatory health and calming symptoms, because we're actually allowing these things to help us bring our hormones back into balance versus using this pill. Okay, so that's my little tidbit on the birth control pill. I promise there will be no more on that. And if people are feeling triggered by that, it doesn't surprise me. To be honest, we have been sold on this dialogue for like several decades, right? Like, I know I was not told any of this when I went on it. And I also, I guess, maybe want to just preface that here too, is that if you have been on it and you have been on it for a long time, it's not too late. Like, we still have time to get off and to bring our body back in. Every ovulation counts, like these little coins that we're putting in our health bank. And so, if you're feeling like this is too much, it's too hard for me to go off of it, just keep this information in the back of your head and continue to do what you're doing. And then maybe someday you might feel ready to take that step, or maybe you're ready to take that jump right now. And, this adds a little bit of fire to the system. But then you feel a little bit of rage or a little bit of sadness that, like, this has been happening and I wasn't aware of it. Just know that it's never too late, right? And so if you want to go off the birth control pill, I totally support that. Okay, so let's talk about how to support healthy ovulation, because that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about why ovulation is so important. And if we're not ovulating, or if we're having irregular cycles, or if we're coming off the birth control pill and we want to really increase our health so that we can ovulate and make it a priority, these are some tips. So if you want to ovulate regularly and experience the full spectrum of hormonal health, here are some key ways that we can support our cycle. Number one is eat enough healthy fats and protein. Low-fat diets, out the window. Now, this isn't eating a lot of trans fats or a lot of high omega-6s. We're looking at having healthy fats in our diet. Our hormones need the fat. We also need so much more protein than when we're actually getting in as women. Protein is so helpful for so many aspects, but also to really balance that insulin resistance, so making us a little bit more insulin sensitive. So, it's really, really important. Your hormones need fat and they need amino acids to function properly. So it's always been recommended to me, and it's something that I recommend to my clients, is try to make sure that you get protein in your body within an hour from waking. Our body really needs that to help with that cortisol spike and to help us set us up for the day for our sugar levels. And then if you're somebody who struggles with blood sugar imbalances, animal protein will be especially important for you. So, it's really important to know that we need to get enough calories in, and that we also need to make sure that we're not on too strict of diets, because that also creates a stress response in the body that will make it feel like it's starving, and that will activate that stress response, which also throws our hormones out of whack as well. Which leads us into the second thing that you can do to support ovulation: manage stress. I know what that seems like. Well, how? Give me some good tips here, right? So high cortisol levels can shut down ovulation. So, just simple things like practices of even like 15 minutes of yoga a day, or doing breath work, or nervous system regulation can really help your body feel safe enough to ovulate. Which, just going back to what I said just a moment ago too, making sure you have enough calories, because that also helps with that stress response. The next one is prioritizing sleep. I think as a culture, we can all work on this one a little bit more. We really want to aim for the 7 to 9 hours of restful sleep each night to support hormone production. In fact, it has been proven that women require even more sleep than men. And so you may find yourself needing a closer amounts of 8 to 10 hours. This is where I really love my Oura Ring, and it's been essential for me to tracking my sleep and to keeping me accountable to going to bed on time. It's also really helpful for me to decode. I've noticed different sleep patterns in different phases of my cycle, and how it affects my sleep, but also how I feel upon waking, which the Oura Ring calls your readiness level. Another thing that we want to really do to support our ovulation is thyroid health. Get your thyroid tested regularly, because it does impact ovulation, and ovulation impacts your thyroid. Another big one is gut health. We really need healthy gut flora to help with estrogen detox. And so once again, just kind of going back again, if you've been on the birth control pill really does affect our gut health in huge ways. So we will want to make that as a priority of getting our gut health back on point here. Next is to be aware that certain medications will inhibit or affect ovulation. So in particular, the go-to recommendation by a lot of doctors for ovulatory and pain period are prostaglandin inhibiting medications like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs such as aspirin, ibuprofen, naproxen, things like Advil, Aleve. So these are a potential problem because they affect how the prostaglandins trigger the egg release from the ovary. So using these prostaglandin inhibiting medications that I mentioned above can prevent the follicle from actually rupturing and releasing that egg. So what it's doing is it's preventing us from having ovulation. So let's say hypothetically we take it because we have period pain. It can impact the next cycle's ovulation. So I'm not saying don't take them. I'm just saying be cautious and be aware that if you are having ovulatory issues, that this might be one of the things that you want to look at. How often are you taking these medications? Because that could be having a huge impact on your ovulation. And then the next one is track your cycle. Using the fertility awareness method or a cycle tracking app can really help you understand when and if you're ovulating each month. Now, I'm going to put the caveat with a cycle tracking app, like you need to have one that is actually tracking your temperature or that you're watching your cervical mucus, because those are the two indicators that an ovulation has happened, right? We know that we're coming up to ovulation. Last week we had Chloe on that was explaining that the cervical mucus is the indicator of estrogen, and that our temperature spike is the indicator of our progesterone, right? And so we need to have those events happen to show that we are ovulating. And so, tracking your cycle can be really, really helpful. I have used both the temp drop, which I love for tracking my temperature, because I'm going to be honest, I have 3 kids. I have 2 dogs that wake me up in the middle of the night. Like I cannot worry about taking my temperature at the same time every day. So the temp drop has been a really great one because you just wear it on your arm and it tracks your temperature throughout your sleep. I also to be honest, because I'm not really worried about fertility, I love my Aura Ring. It does not give me specific temperatures, but it shows me that there has been a temperature change. It shows me on a graph where my estrogen has been present, and then it shows me when my temperature has risen, and then there is progesterone. And so for me, that is enough. So, I play with both because I wanted to try out the temp drop, but anyways. Another thing that you can do to help try to align yourself and to bring upon ovulation is the suggestion of aligning with the moon cycles. Now, once again, this is not a scientific evidence-based protocol, but so many women do it and so many women have success with it. And it's probably one of those things that will never be studied in any research study. So, if it feels like something you want to play with, I say go for it. It's something that I recommended to a lot of my clients that are either in perimenopause or in menopause or that are going through a PCS, is just start to align your life with the moon cycles. So we're still creating that cyclical rhythm, and we're creating this season within our cycle where we are downturning, where we're starting to slow down, where we're resting more, right? So that we're just not acting like we're linear. So aligning with the moon cycles can be something that is super powerful to do. And then lastly, just considering alternatives to hormonal birth control. If you're really wanting to advance your ovulation health, I would say that's the first step to going, is starting to think about, can I come off the birth control pill? What are some other options that I can use? How can I explore this more? Like I said, there's condoms. There's also the fertility awareness method, which is what teaches you body literacy so that you know your body and you know when you're ovulating and you know when your fertile days are, because we're not fertile every day of the month. That's the other thing, is we're only fertile for certain days. And so by understanding your body and body literacy, you really have a lot more control. So mine would be fertility awareness method with condoms as a hormonal birth control. And by doing those simple things, your body will respond. Like, our body is so quick to respond to these subtle shifts sometimes, like nutrition and just shifts in our lifestyle and our stress management have such huge impacts on our hormonal health. And so these are simple steps that you can start taking now to really start to create an impact on ovulation. So I hope this episode has given you a new perspective on ovulation and why it matters to every woman, whether you're trying to get pregnant or not, and that your cycle is a window into your health. Your ovulation is key. It's a key sign that your body is working in harmony. And, I love this by Laura Bride, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I'm going to repeat it and give her credit for it, is that every ovulation that you have is like putting a coin in your long-term health bank, and so this is the way that we create health into our non-menstruating years. This is how we create health and vitality, like from bone health to heart health to diabetes to dementia. It all comes back down to regular ovulations, regular exchanges of these hormones, and keeping our hormones in balance and check. So if you've loved this episode and if it really resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Know that you can always email me at the email in the show notes below. And I would love to read through some of your takeaways and how this really impacted you. And know that you can also reach out to me on Instagram and share your comments there as well. And let's just keep diving deeper into reclaiming our hormonal health. If this is something that you are really interested in doing and you want to work one-on-one with someone, I also have my Hormone Reset one-on-one coaching programs. You can sign up for a package or just book one individual session, but you can find all those details at sherevival.com as well. So until next time, stay aligned, stay empowered, and remember, your body is so wise, so trust it. Friends, have you had a chance to download my new free ebook? Maybe it's not you. The Truth on PMS and How You Can Take Back Control of Your Cycle is now available. This is truly a book that I think needs to be in the hands of every woman who struggles with the second half of their menstrual cycle. So if this is you, click on the link in the show notes and download your free copy today. And remember to subscribe to this podcast and share a review if you loved this episode. Until next time, remember, womb wisdom equals connection to self, which ultimately equals inspired living.